All right, hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another session here in Readers Magnet's featured author interview. My name is Leanne. I will be your host for today, and with me is one of the Readers Magnet's featured author, and of course, she will be sharing to us what this book is all about, her as an author, and what inspired her to write this book. So, everyone, let's all welcome our one and only Miss Crystal Arlene Kuykendall, author of the book The Crystal Pumpkin. All right. Hello, Crystal. How are you doing? It's good to see you.
Great.
That's good. All right. So, yes, Crystal, this is the moment that we've been waiting for because I know that your viewers, readers are also excited to hear the story behind you creating this book, writing this whole, having all these experiences in life. So, we really wanted to know about that. And yes, but here, before we tackle more information about your book, we wanted to know who Miss Crystal Arlene Kuykendall is. So, yeah. Maybe a little bit of self introduction.
Well, I am Dr. Crystal Kuykendall. I have a doctorate in educational
Mm,
administration. I'm also an attorney. And so my clients call me
wow.
attorney Crystal Kuykendall. But I also have a degree in divinity. So I'm also Reverend Crystal Kuykendall. And so, whether you want to
Wow.
call me Reverend
Superwoman.
Dr.
Mhm.
Crystal Esquire or just Crystal, those are my degrees. My background has been quite extensive. I've given speeches on 4 continents. Um, that includes Australia, Europe, Africa,
Mhm.
and North America. I have worked with countless educational associations and school districts, as well as the Department of Defense dependent schools. I'm a mother,
Mm.
um, very active church and school volunteer, and
Wow.
that's me in a nutshell. I don't want to spend the whole interview talking about who I am, but I've got quite a background, and I'm just grateful for the opportunities that I have had to have an impact on many lives.
Wow, that is very interesting, Crystal. You know what? I really like hearing because I'm actually talking to a superwoman right now who've been through a lot with experiences, who've been through, a lot of already a lot of advocacies. Wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Crystal. And yes, of course, this is the moment that we've been waiting for because it's now time to get more information about your book. So I wanted to start with the title, The Crystal Pumpkin. So yeah, will you please tell us what this is all about, the inspiration, how you created this book?
I love talking about my motivation for writing the book. Don't want to give out too much because I want the readers to really be interested and
Uh-huh. Have that cliffhanger. Right.
the obviously reflects me. If you look at the cover of the book, okay, you will notice
Mm-hmm.
that it is a crystal pumpkin. You will also
Yes, yes,
notice
yeah, there. Wow.
eyes
Mm-hmm.
actually tell you what is in the book. The first eye, which is the eye right on the left, is an image of Chicago, the lakefront of Chicago in
Wow.
1957. So that lets you know that there's some nostalgia here and some history.
Uh-huh. Right. Some
Second
history.
are protest signs, which is indicative of what my early years were like in the 60s. And then, of course, the mouth shows hearts because not only does the book provide inspiration and motivation, encouragement. It tells a story of resilience, overcoming obstacles, challenges, but it also talks about light givers and merchants of hope who totally changed my life. And so the lips in the cover is the love story. I share the
Wow, interesting.
romantic love story for my husband and I. And so the book is divided into 3 parts. I should say, Dawn is the first book.
Mm-hmm.
Day is the second book, and Dusk is the third book. Each book has a significant message in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how we develop and how we choose our paths. It's motivational because it gives us some insight on the power of our choices and the power
Mhm.
of personal resilience. It's a lot of comedy in the book. People have told me that they laughed out loud, but people have also told me that they cried out loud because it
Wow.
is a gamut of emotions. But it is my
Mhm.
story. Everything in the book is true. However, the book, since it covers my life, and I don't want to get any people I know in trouble, I let you know
Mhm.
that names have been changed to protect the guilty. And so, some names,
Mhm.
but it is definitely my story. But it only covers 18 years of my life. And people ask, why those 18 years? Well, that's because I want people to realize that we're constantly growing and developing. And people are always influencing us one way or the other. Hopefully, people are influencing us for the good. My
Mhm.
story helps you understand not only my choices, but the choices of those people I call the merchants of hope who helped me to chart my own path. And so it's a book about a lot of lives around me, people who don't do as well as I did.
Mhm.
But in reading the book, you'll discover why. The book is intended to get people excited, not only about personal development, but also get them excited about living in a world that is as diverse as ours is, relating
Mhm.
to people who are different from us in many unique ways, and being an inspiration to others who require some kind of uplifting that we can give.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds interesting, Crystal. I really love it. You know why? It's because I believe that your book is not just advocating for, I mean, it's not just about you sharing your whole experience, about faith, about having that grit, the embracing and acknowledging each differences that, makes each person unique. And but again, I believe that this book is also, advocating for a specific cause and agenda, on how to fight challenges, on
Yeah.
how to have that faith. Wow, this is awesome.
And
This
that
is
none
awesome,
of us is
Crystal.
alone. None of us is alone. And the reason that
Mhm.
I chose my young life, obviously, I could write a book about what I've done in the last 20 years, but I think that I want younger people, I want millennials, I want Gen Z, I want older adults to
Mhm.
realize that it's never too late to have a happy childhood. It's never
Wow.
too late
Exactly.
to set goals and reach them. It's never too late to overcome obstacles and personal tragedies. We've all had them.
Mhm.
We have to realize, and what my book shares is how easy it is. It may seem difficult, but it's easy to develop faith. It's easy to claim victory, even in the midst of
Wow.
a wilderness experience. And
Wow.
it's also good
Mhm.
to realize that each one of us, I copyrighted the phrase merchants of hope. Each one of us can be a merchant of hope for someone else.
Right. Wow, that is awesome. That is very awesome, Crystal. I really like how, for me personally, I really like the idea that how you created this book to also help individual to be inspired, to be more powerful when it comes to making decision on how to
Mhm.
create a better life, towards us. And this is just amazing. Now, Crystal, I can tell that you creating this book is such a successful creation because I know that you've also been getting a lot of positive reviews, feedback coming from your viewers, readers. Now, I wanted to ask, because again, this whole story talks about your past as well. Are there
Yes.
any emotional triggers with that? Especially when it comes to history, the experience you've had, and how did you, let's say, how did you I cannot really put it into words, but how does it feel? How does it feel that you have successfully, shared your whole story with a lot of with among as many people?
It feels great because the feedback that I'm getting has been phenomenal. I've heard
Mhm.
from superintendent of schools. I've heard from college deans. I've heard from young people. And when I say young, I mean under the age of 20. The youngest person to give me feedback was 16 years old, who
Wow.
finished the book.
Interesting.
I've
Mhm.
heard from people
Right.
as old as 106 who have read the book. Um, so I realize that whether you're 16 or 106, there's something in the book that will inspire you. You asked earlier what led me to write the book.
Exactly.
I
Mhm.
was on the lecture circuit for a couple of decades, and all of my speeches were intended to inspire other people, not only for self development, but to reach out. Because I believe that when all of us are able to have an impact, we can make this world
Mhm.
better. And I would hear people say, well, we can't work with certain children because their backgrounds or they're poor or they're different. And I would think to myself, oh my God, I'm glad my teachers weren't like that. Or I'm glad I had mentors who saw me in terms of my
Mhm.
potential and not necessarily my behavior or my past. And the more I
Right.
thought about how much I appreciated the fact that people didn't look at me as hopeless, as someone that they couldn't help, as someone
Mhm.
who couldn't benefit from having a mentor or a counselor or a caring educator. The more I realized how blessed I was, the more I decided that I needed to share my story so that I could be a blessing to someone else. And so there are a lot of things in the book like that are historical because it's looking at the world through the lens of a young girl growing up. So
Mhm.
from the age of 5 until 23, it's my world and how I see it and how those developments impacted me. But the reason for writing the book was to help people to understand that no matter what a person's station in life, or no matter what your station is in life, you can have an impact.
Right. I would agree 100% on that, Crystal. And you know what? This is really a great guidance to someone who's also struggling to share their story, especially when it comes to asking help. Because I know that everybody should also have someone that could also lift them up, especially when it comes to asking for help that, hey, this is the things that you can do. There are a lot of things that you need to do in order for you to be to step out on that specific situation that you don't want to be there. you
Mhm.
know um don't let negativity consume you. Stay optimistic despite of all the challenges.
And
Wow.
Leah, it's interesting because I come across so many people who
Hmm.
doubt themselves, so many young girls who don't think they're pretty, who wonder what I can become. And so when you read my book, you do see a young girl who's very insecure in the beginning, who
Hmm.
doubted herself. And the pumpkin comes in. I won't tell you why or how, but it comes in as a reminder that even when we feel like a lopsided, ugly pumpkin, inside of us, there's a real crystal, there's a diamond,
Wow.
there's something that can be developed. But I also understand that in looking at the history that was going on in the world, not just in my life, but all around the world, my travels to Europe and the Bahamas and
Hmm.
all of that's in there, and my connections with people of different nationalities, different races, different ages, all that's in there because I want others to understand that when we embrace and respect and love one another, we are better.
Wow.
We are better. I've had people tell me that they've never been to Chicago, my hometown. The book takes place primarily in Chicago. And people tell me now they want to visit my city. They want to go to Chicago. And even though I say, well, it's not the same anymore, they like the way I describe Lake Michigan. They like the way I describe some neighborhoods and some of the unique features of Chicago and how just being in that space changed my life. I wouldn't have,
Wow.
listen,
Uh-huh.
there's no other place in the world I'd rather have grown up than Chicago,
Hmm.
Illinois. And I want people to feel the same way about their hometowns
Hmm.
because wherever you grew up, That's what makes you unique. That's what makes you truly special. And so, in sharing that and helping people to appreciate my hometown, my high school, my high school right now is directly across the street from where the Barack Obama Library is being built.
Wow.
When people go to
Uh-huh.
that library, if they read my book, I want them to be able to look across the street and say, that's the
Mhm.
school that molded and gave life to the crystal pumpkin.
Right, and you know what? I love it. I just love it, Crystal. How you also created this book to also acknowledge and value the difference that make again each person or each people unique. Let's talk about diversity. Celebrating diversity. We can yes, and that's right. We can really build a better and more inclusive world for all, especially when it comes to different religions, cultures,
Mhm.
or whatever ethnic groups you have, social groups, or any ages. Try something new. Hear them anytime, or let's say anytime we step outside from our comfort zone, we would also build understanding
Right.
towards different people. And wow, I
And
love that. I love that, Krista. I love that message.
it's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting because some people don't even realize that even within a race, you
Right.
can have diversity. And I bring that out.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the Midwest. When my
Mm-hmm.
husband and I moved to the East Coast, we found that the Black people on the East Coast had a different culture than Black people in the Midwest. And I'm sure that all of us can find differences geographically. And so I want people to not only appreciate differences in terms of racial identity or cultural identity,
Mm-hmm.
but geographic identity.
Right.
When I talk about my travels to other countries and the people that I met and how they treated me so well, I want people to realize, drop your barriers, drop your fears. People will see you as you if you are able to see them for who they are as well. Education was important to me, but it didn't start out like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Right.
because I had cousins, relatives who were told that they could not succeed academically, and they believed it.
Mm-hmm.
They believed it, and they were smarter than me.
Right. Wow.
Why I
Wow.
made it because so many people believed that I could and told me they believed it. And so
Mm-hmm.
the funny stories that are in there are all true, but there's also tragedy, there's also drama, there's mystery, because as you read it, you're wondering what happens next. I've had people who have read it who've come to me and say, I need
Wow.
a sequel because I need to know what happened to Sonny, or I need to know what happened to so and so. People, the characters are developed in such a way that you can't help but appreciate them. You can't help but love them. And
Mm-hmm.
but these characters also reflect other lives that all of us have come in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
When you read the book, you will see people in the book who remind you of people you know. That's in,
Interesting.
that's intentional.
Wow, that's amazing, Crystal. You know what? I really like earlier the one that you said, especially when it comes to understanding each differences, cultures. It also shows respect. The respect,
Yes.
diversity,
Yes.
and yes, I would agree with that. Let that guard down, barriers, forget the broad brush up opinions. And of course, stereotypes you may have heard, all of your life. Be open. Wow. And you know what, Crystal, I really love it because again, the story of this book of you, it's your own story, the experiences you have, you with the people you met. Now I wanted to also ask, what was the impact of you writing this book to you and to your loved ones?
What was the impact
Uh-huh.
on me? Or
Impact to you and to your loved ones of creating
well,
this book.
it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because I have three daughters. My youngest daughter was the first to read the book. She told
Mm-hmm.
me that she cried at the end. My oldest daughter just started reading it last week. They thought they knew
Oh, wow.
my story, and that's
Mhm.
they thought they knew my story, and after
Mhm.
realizing they really didn't. And so my oldest daughter called me last night and she says, "Mommy, I cannot believe all of this happened." She said, "This is fascinating."
Right.
So what I'm finding is that even within my own family,
Mhm.
people are not
Was
aware
also amazed.
of our story.
Right.
And it's important
Mhm.
that they understand that my story is their story too.
Right. And you know what, Crystal?
Now, I have to tell you, I did have one cousin who, before he read the book, he was
Uh-huh.
upset because he said, "You're using real names?" I, I said, "Yeah,
Uh-huh.
only for the deceased people, people who are deceased. Yes, I do use their real names." Well, he was afraid that there would be information shared that he thought not be shared. Well, there is some
Mhm.
information in the book that may be shocking, but now that he's read the book, he appreciates
Mhm.
it because what I've done is I've humanized a lot of people.
Mhm.
They have been looked at negatively. So even
Wow.
even some of the characters in the book who you might think are shady or not good
Mhm.
people, you see in them a quality that you can love and appreciate.
And that's one of the most important goal that you have in this book, to also relate it to, different types of people with the
Yeah.
same experiences. Wow. And it's amazing, Crystal. One thing that I can say is this book of yours is really a complete set of different genre. We have love story, we have comedy,
Yeah.
tragedy, especially, mystery, because right now these kinds of books are also one of the most books that is also famous, especially when there's a reader who would really like to have all these clues, red herrings, while solving mystery. And this is awesome. Now, Crystal, one last question. What will you tell to people who would like to read your book? Or what would be the advices that you can give, or a heads up to them?
The first piece of advice is read it cover to cover. There is a tendency to look at the table of contents and say, "Oh, wow, I wonder what that chapter is about," and maybe go to a specific
Mhm,
chapter. No, you won't appreciate the characters or how the story develops unless you read
mhm.
it from cover to cover. The other thing is, every single chapter has a message. Every
Wow.
single chapter is introduced with poetry. For example, in book one, the poetry is from William Wordsworth, and all of that
Mhm,
is imitations of early childhood. I've chosen select verses because they tie into the message of that particular chapter. In book two, I used to teach African American literature. And so every single chapter in book two is introduced a verse or a poem from an African American poet. Paul Laurence Dunbar, Langston Hughes, because I believe, and a host of others, but I believe that everyone should know some of these literary greats. And you may not get that chance, but when you read my book, people want to find out more about, well, wait a minute, if Langston Hughes said this, I wonder what else he had to say. And so I want
mhm.
people to respect and appreciate them. And then in book three, because that's the love story, I have a lot of quotations about what it does to the human spirit when we allow ourselves to love unconditionally. And so I can lift people
Right.
and help them to take away some of the barriers that keep us from being true to our own selves. And because I talk about so much of the culture, I've had people tell me, "Oh, I have to go now and see this movie," or I downloaded this particular song after I read your book. I'm gonna go and
That's nice.
listen
Uh-huh.
again." And so the culture of that era was so rich. Everyone should know it. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Crystal. And here, Crystal, I know that your book is also, a self-guide hope. Now, what message you would like to say to the people whom you've already helped for your book?
Oh gosh, I'm just grateful that they have communicated directly with me and shared their feelings. When it took me 7 years to write this book.
Wow,
Yeah,
7 years.
yeah. That was because I had to work on it a few hours a day, but
Mm-hmm.
I was totally engrossed in getting a message that would resonate with people. So I knew how much I loved it, but you never know if other people are going to appreciate it also. Well, what
Right.
I'm finding out is that they really, really do. And the people who have finished it have just touched my heart with their comments and their appreciation. I've actually had people say, "Thank you for being so open. Thank you for being so upfront about things that happened." Because I know so many people don't want to talk about bad things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
and I think the reason that people are getting so much out of the book is because they can appreciate my candor and my openness.
Mm-hmm.
They
Exactly.
realize that they can also be candid about their own lives. Okay. I did some things in my early life that were illegal. Shh. Most people don't want to talk about those things, but I do. I'm not,
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm not that person anymore. So I can talk about it,
Openness.
to show
Right.
what
Exactly.
growth really is.
Mm-hmm.
And as you well know, the brain doesn't fully develop until the mid 20s. And so, in talking about some of my early mistakes and things that I did that I wouldn't do now, I'm helping people also to understand that we have to be patient with our young people. We have to be patient with those who are still becoming who they really are.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are patient with them and we can love them while they are growing, it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you know what? When it talks about that, it also talks about, giving them the time to really decide for what are the things that they, like that they things, or let's say goal that they wanted to reach. And wow, this is just so amazing, Crystal. And it's really a mind blowing because again, it's not just about you highlighting your own story with this book, but it's also uplifting everyone, help people that has the same experience on how to to become the better version of themselves. Wow, and that's one of the most important thing.
It
Wow,
really
thank you so much for that, Crystal. And yes, will you please show your book to our viewers?
The crystal
Okay,
pumpkin. Yes.
there. That's a Crystal Pumpkin. Thank you so much, Crystal. And you know what, Crystal? It is also such an honor with Reader's Magnet to, giving us this opportunity to really help you share your story with among as many people. And we're very glad and happy that we're already part of this journey towards you,
Thank
not just reaching your goal as an author, but of course, sharing your whole experience and story with us. Thank you so much for gracing with us today, Crystal. And
you. Yeah.
mhm.
Well, I
Okay,
get
sure, go ahead.
a link or a copy of this interview.
Exactly. And you know what, Crystal? We're on live right now. And earlier, I was able to see a lot of viewers, 25 viewers from the first set of the interview. And wow, that's amazing.
Uh,
Yes, Crystal, we're on live. So that means that once this session will be done, then automatically, yes, we will have, or you and your friends can also see this one online on our YouTube page. So yeah, you may also share it. Yes, and thank you so much again, Crystal. So yes, everyone, Miss Crystal Arlene Kuykendall, author of the book the Crystal Pumpkin. And her book is available on Amazon.com, Barnes& and Noble, and also she have a website that would be www.crystalkirkendall.com. And you may also follow her on all the social media platform he has. Again, Crystal Kirkendall, thank you so much for gracing with us today. And as we say it here in Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Thank you so much.
all right. Bye now.